All right. We are live. Thanks for joining me, Ryan Lundquist. For anybody who's watching this, either it's now or on replay in the future, Ryan Lundquist, SacramentoAppraisalBlog.com. In the Sacramento and surrounding area, for sure, this guy is a legend. I know you've got connections kind of nationwide, different appraisers you keep in contact with, and I don't know how big your reach is, but at least locally, your stats, SacramentoAppraisalBlog.com, the stuff that you're doing is legend, GOAT status. So I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to chat with me just about the real estate market in general. And I think these are the coolest conversations to have because you're out there, you're appraising homes, you're talking to real estate agents, you're seeing the market from one perspective. I'm talking to buyers, I'm talking to real estate agents, I'm seeing it from a different perspective. And we can just kind of talk about a couple guys that are involved, sharing honest feelings about like, hey, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I think might happen. And every single time I do this, whether it's with an agent, an appraiser, title, whatever it is, right? I just really enjoy the convo. And so, yeah, thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. And thanks for the intro. I don't know about legend status, but I appreciate it you to say. And just looking forward to conversation today. I know we're starting to get some people that jump on here, and just looking forward to seeing how this evolves.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And I think, if you want to start with the latest big market article you did, because you do like these smaller articles and you do a big article, the latest big one, you had some crazy stats, and the title of your article was "The Housing Market Feels Like a Crazy Auction." And I think that anybody who's involved in real estate, anybody who's got boots on the ground, probably agrees with that statement. Maybe elaborate for the people watching what you mean. And it might not be like this everywhere in the country, but certainly in Sacramento, it is absolutely bonkers. What went into that, creating that title?
Yeah, well, I think it really typifies and explains how the market feels right now. It does feel like a crazy auction where it's sort of like, here's where it looks like the realistic value is. And then, you have the highest bidder way up here. And so, there's been a lot of talk over, the appraisal gap and buyers having to cover that difference between a presumably lower appraisal and something so high. And I just kind of say, time out. I mean, we are in this market that I think feels irrational and illogical, where buyers are offering in so many cases way above anything that's reasonable. And so I know there's been a lot of flack lately for appraisers, and they're coming in too low, and they legitimately are sometimes, okay, where appraisers miss the mark. But we also have this dynamic where stuff is getting thrown out there and there's no support for any of that. Everyone in the transaction knows it. The agents expect it. They don't expect for it to appraise that high. And so it does feel like that auction dynamic. We've had way more offers. Multiple offers were up 54% last month from last year at the same time. It's, as long as I've been tracking this stat, they're as high as they've ever been. And so we are in a very lopsided market, excessive demand, very limited supply, and it's felt like a market on complete steroids. And I think I see that in the real estate community and all the forums. Everyone is just kind of a little bit amped, right? Have you noticed that lately, Matt?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
everyone needs a vacation, and but it's just the market. You didn't have that fall season. Just things just kept going, and we've been going like gangbusters. The craziest market we've ever had, without that typical fall break.
Right. Yeah. And I literally spent all day talking to real estate agents. Either they're on the buy side and they're submitting offers, or they're on the sell side and I'm trying to schmooze them to get my buyers' offers accepted. And the last conversation I had, that was only 45 minutes before this call, the agent was just telling me about how hard it is on the list side, not only to sort through 27 offers and try to present it to a client where they're not overwhelmed with all this data, and it's easy for them to kind of pick what works best for them in their scenario. But when you've got 27 offers, you've got 26 agents and 26 buyers that you have to say, sorry, you didn't get it. And agents know what that feels like on the buy side. And so they feel bad when they're delivering that news on the sell side. And so I ended my conversation light with most agents today. And I just said, listen, I'm going to do a rain dance for more inventory. I know that you guys are all doing rain dances, hoping for more inventory. And, I hope, you put out some great stats that shows, real estate is seasonal. And so, even in an irrational market like we're in, where the seasonalities, the curve might change a little bit. The hope is in the spring, we get the normal influx of listings like we always do. And there's more stuff that comes on the market April, May, June, July. But my hope is that the 73-year-old who was maybe putting her house sale on hold because she didn't want people in her house now has, the 2 vaccine shots. And I've heard this story. And that's why I present it this way, is because I've heard people tell me, yeah, my mom was going to list last April, but really didn't want all those people in her house. And as crazy as the market is, she knew it was going to be 60 people through her house in one weekend, did not want that, put it all on hold. Now that she's vaccinated, she's not afraid to have people in her house. She's going to put her house on the market in April. I hope we have that, Ryan. I hope we have that times 10,000. I don't know if we will. Maybe I'm just an optimist, but what do you think this spring is likely to bring inventory-wise?
Well, we are seeing more listings hit the market, and I think that's good news. In all the stats I track by the week and by the month, we are seeing an uptick, which is a good thing. I don't think that uptick it's not poised to be enough to satisfy this excessive demand. And so I think that the market's poised to remain tight. But one of the things we have to realize is, yes, COVID is an issue, and some people have simply not listed because of COVID. And so having an effective vaccine, and even on top of the vaccine, is just people feeling normal in life. That's really, really important. Okay. I'm going in a lot of properties right now, and a lot of people are saying, hey, I've got the vaccine. Do you still want me to wear a mask? And I was like, hey man, I don't have it. And so I'm okay if you do. And so, but there's not only that, we have to look at mortgage rates also. And so we've had 2 insanely aggressive quarters because in part of low mortgage rates. And so I think it's easy to diminish that reality, and we go, hey, this market is just so hot. But one of the big factors that helped create this market was when mortgage rates went below 3%, there was a profound difference in the market. And we're at 3.25, somewhere around there right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
More or less. And so I don't think that we've hit this inflection point yet where buyers are backing off, but we have to realize that our market historically has really become sensitive to mortgage rates. In 2018, mortgage rates shot up. A lot of people felt like the market was about ready to turn. And I think in some senses in today's market, it feels so hot and so freakishly hot that we almost have blinders on, and we're like, hey, nothing can impact this market. But I would say, no, let's take off those rose-colored lenses and realize that mortgage rates are a big deal. Obviously, 3.25%, it hasn't, I don't think it's really impacted buyer demand much. I don't think we're going to see it in the stats. But there is a point out there, an inflection, where buyers would say, okay, I'm going to pump the brakes, or I'm going to hit the pause button. We haven't reached that, but let's maybe not sort of preach this narrative of saying that that's not possible, because I really think it is. Historically, it's true. And as buyers, as the prices have risen, there's got to be a point where, demand sort of peaks out and buyers sort of, pump the brakes a little bit. So again, hasn't happened yet, but I'm definitely watching that week by week. I'm particularly watching mortgage applications. Refis last week were down, according to the NBA, from last year, and it makes sense. But you also look at purchase applications, and they were still up from last year, but it looked like they decelerated a bit. And so over the next few weeks, if we start to see sort of lower volume with purchase applications, that's a sign that, okay, that maybe buyers have sort of slowed up a bit. And so, we'll see.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a good point too. And people, they see a 2-week period where rates tick up, and, February was a bad month for rates. They're still historically low, but, let's call it 0.5%. And people are just like, well, it didn't slow down. See, I told, and, you got to give it time, because you'll agree with me that, real estate doesn't move that fast. And, when things shift or turn, it takes a little while to digest. And I think that, like you said, a 0.5% might not affect it. Some extra inventory this spring might not affect it. We've got so much demand and there's so much imbalance that it's not going to be these little factors that balance us out, and all of a sudden we're in a normalized market. But let me say hello to Chia. He's a realtor out in Elk Grove. What's up, Chia? Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Mail Cold, for joining the stream and giving the shout. Shell's Mike, when we were talking about inventory, said that he's seen more listings in the last 2 weeks than any other period in the same time frame or last 2 years. So Southwest Virginia, people are starting to list their homes. That's good news, Mike. I hope to say the same about Sacramento soon. Sacramento is such a crazy market that, like Ryan said, it's going to take quite a bit to level us out. Last stats I saw of yours, Sacramento County particularly, Ryan, was something ridiculous, like 0.4 months of inventory. Has that changed since the last time I looked at that?
Yeah, so Sac County, let me see. I'm looking at it. We're at 0.74 months right now. So we're up from our
all kinds of inventory.
Yeah. In the region right now, we have about 3 weeks worth of listings, and that should be last week or last year at the same time, it was 7.5 weeks. And so it's just, the problem is there's months worth of buyers. There's only about 22 days of listings. And so that's the issue here right now.
Right.
I will say,
right.
Hey, Matt, share out some stats. Price growth in March, the month isn't over yet, but we're going to see some pretty astounding stuff. And so last month in the region, the median price is 500. So far, it looks like it's hovering between 520 and 525. And so we're up 20 to 25,000 in the region. Same thing in Sacramento County. It looks like it went from 460 to 485. And so, that could change a little bit over the next 10 days or so, but it just shows like March is a really aggressive month, which really reflects pendings from February. And so I just say that it's been really aggressive. I know, Captain Obvious, thank you, but we're seeing it in stats, and I think the stats are telling that story.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I see it every single day without even looking at stats. I can just tell. I've got a client who offered 555 on a listing that was 480, and pulling out all the stops, no appraisal contingency, no loan contingency. And that's probably something we should talk about. Let me say what's up to Mark McDonough. What's up, buddy? Bunch of great information on his YouTube channel about all kinds of different areas of SAC. He's following close. Let me ask you your feelings on this, Ryan. I think I know what you're going to say because you're more conservative and want to protect folks from getting in a situation that might be a little hairy. I feel the same way. I'll tell you that it's scary to me, in all honesty, as I see like more and more things. Here's a quick little synopsis, then I'll let you kind of get into it. It was, first, we're going to bridge the gap, and I'm going to offer 525, and I'll bridge a gap of up to 20,000 in appraised value. And that was maybe 4 months ago. And then I saw, okay, I'm going to waive the appraisal contingency altogether. No matter what it appraises at, I'm going to bridge the gap. Then I saw, I'm going to not have a loan contingency because I know my loan's fine. I'm not going to have appraisal contingency. And then a few weeks later, I saw a couple people, and these weren't my buyers, but they were removing those two contingencies and doing a non-refundable EMD. And I thought to myself, well, that's scary, right? Like, what happens when you find a $40,000 sewer repair? You got a $10,000 earnest money deposit that's non-refundable. That's scary. I talked to an agent today, and on the counter to one of our buyers, it was all of the above plus no inspection contingency. And the realtor and me agreed, like, we would never advise a client to not do an inspection. It's like buying a car without looking under the hood. It's not advisable. And so what would be your piece of advice to people that are maybe being advised or thinking that they have to, put all these crazy things into an offer to have any chance of getting accepted?
Yeah, well, first, I think that this is a symptom of an imbalanced market. And, this type of dynamic, it can't last forever. It won't last forever. I know it feels like it will last forever, but I mean, it's hard because on one hand, you have to sacrifice the norms and you're going to have to do something you probably aren't comfortable with to get an offer accepted to a certain extent. But I think there's a line though too, where personally me as a buyer, I'm actually thankful that I'm not in the market right now. But if I was, there's no way I would be waiving my home inspection or a sewer inspection. As a guy who just spent $14,000 to replace the freaking sewer line, I can tell you, get a sewer inspection, right? And so I think it's dangerous for buyers. It puts buyers in a really tough spot. Now, this is a brand new house or built in the last 10 years. I'd probably feel a lot more comfortable with waiving some of this stuff. I mean, there's I think it depends on the situation, depends on the house, all that stuff. But I think sometimes the best answer is no. And and if the market is pushing you up and you're not feeling comfortable, then maybe it's not the time. There is such a thing as buyer's remorse, and I think there's a serious FOMO going on right now where people have a fear of missing out. But being instantly underwater in your mortgage isn't a fun thing, for the moment, and especially if the market changes in the future. And so I'd say that, just be wise, try to be objective, and just really analyze, like, do I really want this house? Because you're going to have to pay for it in some situations. I do hear some agents talk about, though, they're getting properties and they're still able to negotiate. Okay, only 10% of the market last month was overpriced. And so that number should be at least twice as much. And so it's a really aggressive market, but there are situations where you do have the ability to negotiate still. You don't have to offer, $75,000 above absolutely everything in order to secure something. So I just say that, like that property with 121 offers, I don't know if we're going to talk about that. We can get to that later. It's like, that's not happening in every single escrow. It feels like it is, but it's not. And so I don't know. I mean, I feel for buyers, but I don't, maybe step off if it's getting too crazy.
Right. Yeah, that's always an option. Jeb Smith is a great realtor down south. He's got a great YouTube channel too. And I know I had a conversation with him recently about appraisal problems down in Southern California. Do you have any insight on this, Ryan, as far as what percentage of properties aren't appraising?
Well, Jeb, they are all appraising. They just might not be appraising for what they want.
Appraiser joke.
Yeah. I always have to throw that in there, but very realistically, right? I don't have a percentage, unfortunately. I mean, I find that it's hit and miss. You ask, I could go to Lab Coats or any agent forum online and say, what are you experiencing? And some agents will say, hey, I haven't had any appraisal issues whatsoever. I find the bulk have said, I have had a few. Others have said I've had a string of, unsuccessful ones. I think part of it depends probably on neighborhoods and price ranges that are more aggressive. And so I don't think there's a one size fits all answer. Keep in mind, if a realtor is working with more borrowers who are putting more money down and they're putting 20 to 30% down, chances of an appraisal waiver are also higher. And so therefore that realtor may not be having any issues because the borrowers coming to the table are getting waivers. And so but I would say that in talking to appraisers and observing everything in appraisal forums right now, it's really normal to see stuff coming in lower than the contract price because it's that auction dynamic, right? It's not the appraiser's job to sort of, like, here's what's the market willing to pay, and then you have your auction price way up here, your highest one possible. It's not the appraiser's job to match that. And so I'd say in a lot of cases, a lot of dynamics, we should be seeing them coming in lower.
Yeah, this is kind of like right along those lines of how are you factoring in multiple offers on properties where there aren't comps to support it, but someone's willing to pay that price, or multiple people. What can you say to that? And I think I want to add to that one, Ryan, like you shared with March, where the stats have shown like we're going up 25 grand in a month. How do you as an appraiser factor that in when you look at a comp that's January 25th and you got another comp that's February 15th? How much can you account for a market as hot as this one?
Okay, so first of all, I'll say that by the end of this month, if our median hits 525, it'll be up $40,000 within 60 days. Now, that doesn't mean that every single property is up that much. Okay. There's reasons why the median can be up. Okay. There's more sales at the top, there's less at the bottom. That pushes up the price metrics. And so we have to be really careful that we're not just looking at a median. What I want to look for are comps in a neighborhood and pendings. Okay. Now here's the deal. I hear sometimes in real estate this notion that appraisers are always in the past. And, if appraisers are appraising and I'm pulling comps from January, the market's gone up and I'm not adjusting up, then yes, I am in the past. Okay. But I always say that comps are like historical artifacts. They tell us what the market used to be like, say in January when that property got into contract. So what I'm doing in my reports, I'm looking at, here's my January sale. And then I'm looking at, here are my pendings up here, not just one Lone Ranger way up here. I want to look for a group of stuff. What is moving up? And say if I had something at 385 in January, but then I'm seeing today 410, 415, 420. Okay. That's a pretty aggressive adjustment up. But if I'm talking to those agents, they're all getting multiple offers and it looks like the whole pack of the market is moving up, then I need to adjust that sale up from January to reflect today. But you have your Lone Ranger offer at 475,000. It's totally disconnected from everything. Well, I'm probably going to throw out that outlier. Just like you have the one listing that's listed at 300,000. Well, that doesn't pull the rest of the market down, and one Lone Ranger doesn't pull the rest of the market up. And so, in short, I think appraisers have to gauge demand. And then, if in an increasing market, appraisers are going to need to adjust up. Okay, but one more thing though. Not every single market is moving the same speed. It could be different in condos as demand for condos is lower. Even in California, condos didn't increase as much as the rest of the single family detached product last year in the entire state. But in Midtown and Sacramento, duplexes and fourplexes, they're pretty flat right now. Okay. The rest of the market looks like that. And that's not the trend. I would actually say duplexes and fourplexes stable, not increasing in value. And so sometimes we have to look at the market and we have to be careful about imposing this idea that everything's hot, 121 offers, because we have to look to the comps to tell the story of the market. Maybe some segments of the market are going to be more aggressive than others. So there's no one easy way to do this, but for any real estate professionals watching, I would say learn how to make graphs. Okay, you don't have to be an Excel nerd, but it's so easy. And I have tutorials online to do this sort of thing. Okay, learn how to make graphs so you can visually see a market. Okay, but we have to look at some properties today and go, yeah, that's the auction price. That doesn't represent something that's reasonable. Okay, and so that's kind of where appraisers are at. It's not easy out there. I think it's a lot easier to see a market once it's happened. When you're in the midst of it, much more difficult.
Right. But I think Billy asked the same question I did about, like, can you use the heat of the market to say this sold at 380, this sold at 390, but this is 60 days old, this is 30. I might be able to justify 405 because of the trajectory of the market.
Okay. Yeah, and I kind of vomited out a lot of information right there. I didn't actually answer one of the questions about multiple offers. Multiple offers, I think, are very important. Real estate agents, be honest when appraisers ask you about multiple offers. Okay, if I don't believe you, do you know what I'm going to say? Send me the offers. I would like to see them. If you got 18, great. Okay, or white out the names, whatever you have to do to make it legit. But I want to understand if this is in contract at 425 and I'm going to be coming in at 390, like, I better have a really good reason why I'm coming in lower if there were 20 people who were willing to pay 420. And so I use that information, and I sometimes use that in my report when I'm making adjustments, when I'm looking at my sales and my pendings up here. But I'm also using that language in my final reconciliation of value, where I'll say, and I brought the value in at this level. There were 13 offers, here's what they came in at. And it looks like this also supports the value in addition to my comps, in addition to the pendings. Okay, let's remember one thing. The value is not found in the number of offers. It's not found in the contract price. You can sell a property for $1 or $1 million. value is found in the market, in the comps, and in the pendings. That's where we have to focus most of our attention to. Sometimes I think real estate agents put so much focus on, but there were 13 offers. Okay, that's really, really great. An appraiser can use that supplemental data. If you're going to camp anywhere, though, camp on here are the sales and here are the pendings. I talked to 2 or 3 other agents of these pendings, and they're in contract at this level and this level. Okay, that's what can help appraisers to see the market.
Cool. We had an appraisal question about is the appraisal process or guidelines different for a VA loan as compared to the other loan types? If so, could you discuss the differences?
So I have an ebook and that you can buy. Where I'm just kidding. So I don't do VA, but one of the ways that VA is different, though, actually, there's 2 things. VA is different in that you have to clear Section 1. Okay, and so that's actually a great safeguard for buyers. VA is only about 5% of the market in the Sacramento region, so 1 in 20 sales. VA can, as Matt can testify, you can have any loan amount. One of the ways that VA is actually different, though, is that there's a process called Tidewater. If it looks like the appraisal is going to be coming in lower than the contract price, VA has this formal process where they would say, hey, we want you to actually call the listing agent and say, it looks like it's coming in lower. Would you like to supply me with some data? Okay. Appraisers aren't supposed to be doing that with any other type of loan. And so that's actually a pretty interesting difference. Okay. But otherwise, VA and FHA sort of hold hands. They're, cousins or something. I don't know if maybe cousins shouldn't be holding hands. Depends on where you're at in the country, maybe.
Oh, good stuff. Cynthia, thanks for joining us. Appraisers can use a wider than 1 mile radius, correct? So there are not many houses listed.
Cynthia, that is a great question. I'll say this, that it's not how far an appraiser can go for comps, but where an appraiser should go. In some markets, I'm staying within 2 or 3 blocks, and that is it. Okay, on Garden Highway in Sacramento, it's where the Sacramento River's at. The only comps I'm using are on Garden Highway on the river. They might be 2 years old. Too bad. I can adjust for the way the market's changed. I'm not going to pull something that's not on the river. And so sometimes I think location is a trump card. We have to pay attention to that. Just because there aren't new sales doesn't mean that I should go out to something that's dissimilar. And so I think it becomes to lenders a red flag when an appraiser has passed up, 7 recent sales right here in this tight neighborhood and is going out 2 miles and cherry picking higher stuff, because the lender's first question is going to be, hey, buddy, why didn't you pick these? And so I think that's what we have to be careful of. But let's just, ask the question, are buyers shopping in that other area just as they are, in wherever the subject property is located? So I find that to be critical, but there is no 1 mile rule. Okay, that's made up stuff. Sometimes lenders want appraisers to stay within there. There's nothing in appraisal standards or Fannie Mae language that says appraisers have to stay within 1 mile. If you have a geodesic dome listing, appraisers might be going out 20 to 30 miles for comps because that's what they have. It might be, 4 years old or 3, or, you're not going to have, 3 model match geodesic domes within a 1 mile radius, right? I've never seen that anyway.
Have you done an appraisal on a geodesic dome before?
No, I've had orders and they've never gone through. There's one actually right by my house, randomly, and I keep hoping someday that I get to do one. So maybe you just
contact the owner and just offer it for free, just so you can do it. Just call them up and say, hey, would you ever want to know your value that's more accurate than Zillow or these online things? Give me a call.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Yeah, you create a blog out of it. All right. Cool. Yeah, just some thank yous on there. Yeah, it's something that came to my mind as you were talking about that too, with appraisals and people asking questions about appraisals coming in low. What I've noticed on the lending side is that I haven't had a ton of appraisal issues, because more often than not, the ones that get accepted have waived the appraisal contingency. And so they're either putting 20 or 30% down and getting the waiver, or they've got reserves where they can make up the difference. And, a low appraisal isn't an issue because it's, 550, we're in contract at 575, but the buyer, that's what they signed up for. Because I think, to your point too, a lot of times in this type of market, the agents know. They know when they list at 480 that there's no real comps to support anything above 500. So when they start getting offers at 530, 540, 550, they realize like there's no comps, like there's no way it appraises for that much. So what they have to do to protect their sellers or to, have that deal actually make it to the finish line is write that appraisal gap or that waiving of the appraisal contingency, because it's just not going to appraise. I think something I'm curious about, Ryan, is for me, I think about, the fact that, nothing justifies over 500,000, but there's 20 people that are willing to pay 530, right? After you have 4 people that buy 4 houses in that neighborhood at 530, 540, 550, like these are the new comps, right? So it's setting the new value, whether or not it was an auction type bidding thing or whether it was justified or whether it was reasonable. Is that just me, or is that just like what's happening right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that where I said before, one sale doesn't make or break the market. Like in Sacramento, we had our highest sale in Sacramento County at 5 million a few years ago. And guess what? That didn't pull the rest of the market up, right? And so I think sometimes we expect outliers to do that. But when you start to have a trend or a group of something happening, then yeah, that can make a difference. But I think buyers can smell artificial though also. Like, we still look at properties and go, okay, wait, there's no way, like that one sold at 625 and I mean, nothing is even at 550. There's something going on with that one. And so with that type of outlier, appraisers or savvy buyers, the real estate community, everyone has to look and go, why? And so in a sense, we have to appraise the comps and, we have to understand, was there an appraisal waiver? Did mom live next door? They just had to have something. They're doing a 1031 exchange. There was a reason why I've got to close right now, and it doesn't matter, at what level. Or, was it cash way above what was reasonable? And so, but I mean, I share that concern though. When you start to have all of these sales closing higher, does it pull up the market? And I think in some sense, yes, that's theoretically possible, but we need some time to kind of see how that shakes out. I will say that buyers, sellers would be wise to sort of look at the market and just realize that your power is not totally unlimited. The properties that are getting bid up, in some cases, they're frankly priced too low. Okay. If you're getting more than 30 offers, it probably could have been priced a little higher. Right. And so, but you can get 0 offers in today's market if you're priced too high. There's a property that I'm following right now. I won't mention it, but the specific address, but it sold for like low 300s last month. And, the new owner, whether they're a flipper, whoever they are, they did nothing to it and listed it closer to 450. And it's been interesting to see 2 price reductions so far. And it's a good example that the market is still, even though we have this environment that feels irrational, the market is still savvy enough to look and go, yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm not willing to go out on a limb. I'm not so desperate that I'll overpay by that. That's kind of my long-winded answer.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to see, because I see the same ones too, where I don't follow a bunch of the market, but the area that I've lived in for 40 years, I always look at stuff that comes up and I see something, I go, what in the heck? Like, remodeled nice stuff isn't selling that high, and they're selling this total fixer for that high. And then inevitably I'm like, oh, 91 days in the market. It's not surprising because, like you said, no matter how hot the market is, if you price something super high, and we've seen this, over the last 5 years, that if priced correctly and you got a great agent, you're going to demand a ton of offers and you're going to get a higher price than if you start high and then price reduction, because there's something about that high price and that price reduction and time on market that buyers just look at it and go, oh man, there's something wrong. I'm not even going to look at it. Whoever's looked at it before and didn't offer on it, and the fact it's been on the market for 37 days, I know that there's got to be something wrong with it. And so I won't even bother looking at it. So that's interesting. Maybe we'll jump in and talk about, like you had mentioned briefly earlier, this house in our market that got 121 offers I just read the article and I had a couple people bring it to my attention. I found it interesting that they had a cash offer, and I don't know all the details, but they had a cash offer significantly above the offer that they took, and they didn't take it for whatever reason. And I'm sure there's more to it than just like they left $40,000 on the table and took a lower offer. But yeah, for anybody watching, Citrus Heights, which is, our market here, Sacramento and surrounding, there was a house listed for $399 that got 121 offers. And I think they only had it open during the weekend, right? Just 2 days of showings.
Yeah. I think it was 4 days. I don't know how many showings, but on the market for 4 days. And so it was quick.
Right. 121 offers. The article mentioned something about, mid 400s, but they had gotten cash offers above 500. And I don't know, there must have been some stipulations in there, because I can't imagine a seller not just saying, okay, we'll take your 500K offer. We'll go, stay in a Four Seasons hotel for a month or something with all this extra money. Or they just thought, hey, 460 is enough. We'll take this 460 offer. It sounds like a nice couple. I think I always have these crazy random thoughts, Ryan, where I'm like, if I was a multi, billionaire and I was, selling a house, I would do something irrational, like pick the lowest offer and just give it to them, just for fun. And I wonder if any of that goes on. I know for sure people have shied away from the letters because they don't want any issues with discrimination and stuff. But I've certainly heard. I had an agent tell me that a veteran homeowner wanted to sell their house to a veteran, and they thought that was important. You always hear about people not wanting to accept a VA offer for whatever reason, and I've heard that they want a VA offer, or they looked through the offers and really wanted a family because it's a family neighborhood and they cared about their neighbors. Interesting stuff, man. Real estate is.
Yeah, so you got to be so careful with that. Fair housing, and you can't discriminate even based on families or sexual orientation, all this stuff. But I'm not a lawyer or telling anyone what to do. I get that sentiment though. But yeah, that was an interesting property. I want to say that it closed at 500, and so it was like about $100,000 over. But there's I think some lessons there for us. Number one, cash doesn't win every time. Okay. Cash has been, so far, it's about 12% of all sales in March. Okay. It's been about 11% of the market for a lot of months in a row. Last month, it kind of shot up to 17%. This month, so far, it looks like it's lower. And so it's not every deal that's cash. And so first of all, that's sort of the thing that we have to realize. But this is a total outlier. Okay. The agent in this case, she's just been a true professional. She has handled herself so well online, especially I talked about it on my Facebook page briefly. And I think the tendency is like, you want to chime in, and agents are like, hey, what's this person's problem for listing like this? But, maybe the seller wanted to do that, but the agent she handled herself with grace. And I just have to say kudos for her professionalism. I will say clearly this property was priced below market though. Okay. Literally right now in the Sacramento region, we have about 2,800 pendings. Guess how many pendings have more than 40 offers out of 2,800? Throw out a number, Matt. Do you have any idea?
It can't be more than 1%. 40 plus offers is a lot of offers.
Okay. There's literally 7 pendings. Okay, so 0.25%, a quarter of 1% of pendings have more than 40. And so in our market, when you're getting over 30, you're in sort of territory that is not traveled much. And so it's not that, I would say to an agent, you underpriced it, whether, maybe it was a seller that did that, whatever, it was a strategy. It doesn't matter, but clearly if you would have priced higher, you wouldn't have got that many. And so I think we have to realize that, and we have to realize this outlier doesn't explain the whole entire market. All right. And so this is just so uncommon. And so when people start saying stuff like, dude, people, stuff's getting 121 offers, I would say, well, that was the best offers ever in the Sacramento region since this stats become available since 2016. Okay. And so this is sort of record breaking stuff. But otherwise, I just say, look, there's 7 pendings with 40 or more offers. The other highest number was like in I think 72 or 79. Otherwise, everything's in the 40s. I mean, this is just
Maybe
territory.
maybe they looked at that and they wanted to break the record. So maybe there's another agent out there somewhere that's like, you know what? 121, I can beat it. I want to be in the newspaper. So yeah, the answer to your question, Jed, is yes, 121 offers. And I saw a lot of it online, which is it's receiving some national press. But like Ryan said, 1/4% getting 40 plus offers. We like to read the headlines, and then some people are going to take that as like, oh my gosh, it's so bonkers. Everything gets a million offers. And to your point, Ryan, it was in one of your blogs about the average number of offers per house. What is it? What's the average number per house? Four offers?
See, in February, it was a 4.52. And so
right.
It's really getting up there. About 30% of the Sacramento market gets one offer. Okay. And so when you put together all sales together, like it's actually really high. It's 72% higher than last year. Right. But you look at pendings right now, pendings that are getting multiple offers in the past couple of weeks, it's approaching almost 7 offers each. And so it's gotten more aggressive out there, but it's not, that situation where everything is getting 20 or 30. Like there's a lot more properties right now that are getting that many, but it's not everything. But I think the one thing that I would just say to buyers is that you can actually compete with so many offers, because after about 10 offers, a lot of the offers start looking about the same. Now, clearly a seller is going to they're in a place of advantage if they have 40 offers. Chances are you're not going to win because there's 39 other people there. But after about 10 offers or so, statistically, I could show you the visuals. It starts to sort of look about similar where properties in terms of how much they sell above their original list price. And so I would just say that there's hope for you. Don't be the lowball offer at $399 when you know that there's 70 other offers so far. You're not going to win, but I don't know. I think that there's slight comfort there.
Right. Yeah. I had some interesting conversations with some real estate agents today too about, the ones that I think are really doing it right. They're trying to answer as much as they can. When you're getting all these offers and all this interest and all these showings, like it's hard to keep up. And like the agents I talk to, I'm working with buyers too, and I've got these listings and I've got all these offers, but they're trying to give as much information as possible so that maybe this house that was going to get 27 offers only gets 12, because if 15 of them were going to be in this, band of 10,000 above ask, and they already know that they've got 7 that are up here, then, you politely tell these folks, unless you want to just practice, tell your buyers that it's going to go well above and this offer has no chance of getting accepted. And so that's part of it. I know me and Jeb talked about it, and I've talked about it with other agents, how much it blows my mind, Ryan, that in a market this competitive, if you talk to a listing agent about how many people they talk to before the offer is submitted agent-wise, it's only about 30% of the offers getting submitted, the agent has actually had a conversation with the list side. And I understand sometimes it's the list side's fault because they're not answering their phone or responding. But if I'm a buyer's agent and I'm submitting an offer, I want to know, do you need rent back? Do you need to close quick? Hey, if we're right in this range, do we have a chance? And any information I can gather to make my offer more competitive, that seems commonsensical to me. And for whatever reason, it's only happening 30% of the time. So of these 121 offers, how many of those were just fire off an offer? I saw it listed at $399. Let's try 410, when a short conversation would have been like, don't write at 410. You have no chance. I don't know. I'm just a mortgage guy. So I'm throwing out my opinion. It matters very little in the real estate world because I'm not doing any of that stuff, but it is what it is. Mail cold, with the sudden rise in home values, either of you believe that future home prices will increase at a rate slower than historical increases to self-correct? I've got my opinion. We'll hear from you first, though, Ryan.
Okay,
this is your crystal ball. Pull out your crystal ball.
Yeah, it's my crystal ball is broken. That's what I always say. In 2020, we started to see a market that nobody predicted. Literally, I didn't hear anyone predict the market that we had. The truth is that prices were slowing down. Price growth was, about 4% the entire year before. And, now we're seeing prices up 17 to 18%. And so it's almost like price growth was heading down. It was still up, but then all of a sudden this dramatic change. And so it just goes to show that market dynamics can shift and nobody can predict, the future of the market. And, we're in a place where we're in our 10th year of price growth. And the reality is in real estate is that prices go up and prices go down. That's exactly what markets do. Be careful of anyone who says that prices always go up, because they're probably wearing rose-colored lenses. And be careful also of people who preach doom and gloom, and then their prophecies don't come true, and then they repackage their prophecy for the next year, and and keep sort of kicking the can down the road until eventually they're right and they look like a so-called market genius. With all that said, here's what I would say: that we have a market that's built. Two of the big layers right now are COVID, the pandemic, and eventually we will get through this, and that should theoretically normalize things a little bit, with people feeling comfortable to list, people feeling comfortable having people in their homes. That should help a little bit with more inventory. Okay, that may take a while, and hopefully we don't have a resurgence in numbers and stuff, but for as long as we're in this, we're sort of poised to have anemic supply. Okay, but the second layer here we have to consider is that mortgage rates below 3% have really supercharged the market. And as mortgage rates presumably rise, if that's the environment that we have, and we slowly tick up, that's something that can change the dynamic of the market also. And that's really, it's been like a steroid that's fueled the market. And what happens when someone takes steroids? We could ask every professional athlete, right? Or the Russian swim team, or, whoever. What happens when they take steroids, and then that's over time, the steroid, it wears off. And so I think that, this type of appreciation is built on having low inventory and excessive demand, and it's not something that is sustainable for all time in the future. Okay, but I think still predicting the demise of the market, or that things are going to crash, I think that's a dangerous notion. Okay, we have, for instance, forbearance. Forbearance represents 5% of the market right now, and so a lot of people predict in the future we're going to have this major collapse, and all these forbearances are going to wreak havoc on the market. But what's happening is that slowly forbearance stats have persisted to come down. These are people who aren't paying their mortgage, entered this process with their lender. And so I'm not saying there aren't going to be more foreclosures. I really think that there are going to be eventually, but remember, this is, a lot of these people have equity, and this doesn't look like it's poised to flood the market with a foreclosure wave. Okay, everyone and their mom promises this wave. Here's this tsunami that's coming, but we haven't seen that materialize. I don't think the stats show that we're poised to see that also. And so that's kind of my answer, non-answer. I think that's the best that we can do with everything. I would just, remind everyone that in real estate, prices really do go up, they really do go down. And I think we look at real estate sometimes and think it's so easy to predict. Okay, if you think it's easy to predict real estate, answer in the comments right now, what is Bitcoin going to do right now to next year? How much is it going to be worth? Can anyone legitimately tell me? Put your prophecy to the test, and I can guarantee you probably don't know, right? Because it's a guess. And I think that's that same dynamic in real estate, where we're throwing out fluff and seeing if something eventually takes flight and flies. So that's my take. Bitcoin to the moon. No, that's Dogecoin, man.
Yeah,
Elon Musk. Yeah, I have Dogecoin, and it's gone down. So, but
yeah,
hopefully,
I know. What's it, like 5.5 or 6 cents or something?
5.9 or something.
So I'm lucky to be too busy to be really paying attention to any of that stuff. But I just wanted to give my 2 cents on this question, Mail Cold, and I think that obviously 13, 15, 17% price appreciation is unsustainable. And I know it's unsustainable because as you continue to have price appreciation, when I'm qualifying people, the able to buy starts to decrease, and that decreases demand. It's just it's how math works, right? If so many people can buy at 550 and rates go up by 0.5% or a full percent, and home prices go up 15%, like less people qualify at that number, and so demand's going to come down. And so my prediction, and I love doing this because I'm just going to be wrong so often, and then every once in a while I'll be right. I'll be able to clip it a year and a half from now. Is that we have such an imbalance right now, supply and demand, that we probably see this crazy 13-15% price appreciation through 2021, and a combination of rates increasing and maybe a little bit more supply coming to the market, and people pumping the brakes for whatever reason, because of prices, because of rates, combination of the two. Price appreciation slows down, but like Barry Habib said in 2017, 18, 19, whenever he said it, when you're driving 90 miles an hour and you slow down to 30, you're still driving forward. So anybody who's talking about like, well, I'm going to wait till next year because prices will be cheaper. If we see price appreciation of 13% and then next year it slows way down to 4%, it's still appreciating. The decline from 15 to 4 is a decline, but it's still appreciation where things are more expensive year after year. So I don't see any major crash ahead, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a slowdown in the appreciation rate. So that's my 2 cents, my projections, and I'm sticking to it. I'll have another one next month and the month after, and eventually I'll get it right, like all the prophecies on YouTube. Charles is saying 100K. This is in response to what's Bitcoin going to do in the next year. So he thinks it's going to go from, what's it at right now, 55,000-ish?
I thought it was 59 or something. And
somewhere today, in there. So, okay, Billy is seconding that projection. We're going to shift from real estate to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's going to double over the next year, and we'll see how that goes. I don't think, like you said, nobody predicted the real estate market in 2020. Nobody predicted the crazy run by Bitcoin. Maybe some people did. But yeah, it's been. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. I mean, and I just use that as an example. I hope that Billy and everybody's right here, and I hope you make a ton of money. But I think, when we step back and we say things like, who's going to be the next president of the United States? No one has any idea. Or who's going to be the next governor in California, right? Not that we're going to politics. Or what's going to be, popular? Who's going to be the next big rapper? Or, are mullets really going to come back in style? Like, there's all these, like, we look to the future and we realize in real estate, when we start thinking of these other examples, we go, oh gosh, I can't predict the future with all these things. And so why is it that I think that real estate is so easy to predict? And I just say, for some people, I would just say, be careful of the myth of thinking that you can time the market perfectly, right? Look, if you're not comfortable with prices right now, then don't buy, but at some point, you have to make a decision based out of confidence, and you have to realize that there are cycles in a market. It's very difficult to time a market perfectly, because oftentimes our finances and our lifestyle aren't in sync with a market, perfectly. The market bottomed out in 2012. Okay. A lot of people could not buy then because their credit was in disrepair. They just went through a foreclosure or short sale. They were struggling with jobs. The economy wasn't going like gangbusters. And so it just shows that oftentimes when a market bottoms out, that doesn't mean that our lifestyle and that our wallet and finances are going to perfectly line up with that. And so at some point, we need to jump off the myth that it's so easy to time the market, because, then we're living in, this so-called reality that it's not how it works in the real world, where most people buy based on lifestyle. And I don't say that to pressure anyone, like, buy or don't buy real estate. Like, that's your decision, but don't sort of believe that, I'm going to time the market perfectly, because you probably didn't get it right with Bitcoin. And you're probably not going to time the market perfectly with real estate either. Okay. It's just true. And it, so.
Yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment, and it's tough because there's so many people that's exactly what they want to do. They want to time it, and they want to buy at the very bottom. And when I'm advising a client, I usually tell them, it's a lot less about the market and more about your personal situation. When you're in the position to buy, where you've got the down payment, you've got reserve funds in the bank, your credit's good, your job is secure and in a good place, like you're ready to buy. You're not going to wait for, the market to be ready for you, because like you said, in 2012, credit was super tight. It was hard to get a loan. I could have bought a bunch of stuff in my neighborhood for 180 grand, and I wish I would have, but it was a lot harder back then. And, if you look at real estate over time, like you said, real estate goes up and down, but I'm a big real estate bull. So call me biased or think what you will about me being a mortgage broker and giving advice about real estate. But it's going to go up and down, but over time it's going to increase in value. And whether you buy here, or here, if you're buying it as a long-term 20, 30-year thing, it's likely to go up. And when I say likely, I mean like historically, like it always has on 20 or 30-year graphs. And so, it should be more predicated on the individual's like readiness to buy and less on the market. Because, one thing that you could take out of this market, Ryan, which I think might be a positive that people don't really realize, is that a buyer who has very little reserve funds and can barely scrape together a down payment and is barely on the cusp of qualifying, they're going to have a really hard time in this market. And it might be for the best. As hard as that is to stomach for some people, an FHA buyer with 640 credit with 13,900 in the bank, and they need 13,750 of it to get in this first house. Like maybe you shouldn't be buying right now. Maybe it's just better for you to sit on the sidelines. You're going to make, a higher income in 3 years. You're going to have more money in the bank. You're going to have a higher credit score. You're personally going to be more ready. Whether the market is higher, lower, or sideways, that matters less than you being personally ready as a buyer. So I'll get off my soapbox. That's just my little speech. We got something from Dan Transporter. And I know you got to go, Ryan, so I'm watching the clock. You got 4 minutes of value time with Ryan Lundquist.
If there's more questions, fire them off right now, and then I'll stick around to answer those. I can't stick around, infinitely, but get them out there, then we'll muscle through them real quick.
Yeah, we're trying to wrap it up in an hour. So if anybody's got questions, feel free to fire them off right now. And if we don't get to them, then I'll maybe save them and answer them on the side or something. Was supposed to close next week. Just got a call from lender for a second appraisal for an FHA. Is this normal? Also, we're locked in on a rate. Now we're worried their lock will be over the 40-day. Definitely not normal to get a second appraisal. Why would they need a second appraisal on an FHA?
No, maybe I wonder if the underwriter's questioning the first one, or was it a flip maybe, and they need some reassurance.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I've seen certain lenders have certain guidelines where if it's sold for 200 and now it's being resold at 380, if it's had more than an X% increase, they want 2 appraisals just to kind of justify that increase. And like you said, that can be a flip property where they're like, hey, we're looking and we see 4 months ago this thing sold for a flip. So that's it. That's the answer to your question, Dan, is that it went from 200,000 to 400,000, and the company who's writing the loan is saying, hey, listen, we want a second opinion because we want to make sure this thing is worth 400,000, which is probably makes sense when you step back and look at it. So I guess my only advice is that you're worried about the lock. I would talk to the lender now about, hey, how much does a lock extension cost? Because if you locked it on a 40-day and you're supposed to close next week, my guess is that you're locked into a rate that's something better than you can get today. More often than not, you don't have to relock at today's rates or get the worst rate. You can just pay to extend. And so yeah, have that conversation as soon as possible with your lender and just say, hey, how quick can this appraisal get done? Can we order it on a rush? How many days do you expect I'm going to need to extend? How much is that extension going to cost? All that stuff. I think you'll be okay. If nothing else, maybe you can go back in and renegotiate a different price, because when you got an FHA loan on a property, it sticks to the property. So the seller, they sell to another FHA buyer, is going to have to use that for 6 months. Cool. I don't see any other questions, man. I'm gonna be a man of my word and get you out of here in an hour, dude. It was really a pleasure chatting real estate with you, and I appreciate you taking an hour of your day, dude. It was fun.
Hey, I
Any
love this.
any
This is
close?
cool format.
Oh, it's super cool, dude. I'm all about YouTube Live now. I'm doing it every Monday at 5 o'clock. So if you ever get bored on Monday at 5 o'clock, you can tune in. I'm going to try to get different folks from around the country to just get on here and chat real estate because I'm locked behind my desk all day, and some human interaction is good for everybody.
Definitely. So yeah, well, hey, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. Closing thoughts. I will say the market is always moving. Okay. There's something new to watch every single week, every single month. And for real estate professionals here, I just say keep changing your narrative based on the way that stats are moving. Okay. And, for buyers, just keep watching the market, sellers, same thing, and, listen to the stats, but also listen to your wallet and your lifestyle, see where you end up. But look forward to this. Anyone can reach out if they have questions for me. Look me up on my social channels. Otherwise, Matt, this was really cool. I loved getting to do it. I'd love to do it again sometime too. So
cool. Yeah. Maybe we'll jump on next year and see how my predictions went and whatnot. Anybody who wants to check out the coolest blog, SacramentoAppraisalBlog.com. That's Ryan's blog. The best stats in town. He's got all the graphs, all the data, all the cool stuff. And next time we'll dig more into some of the stats you have, man. Appreciate having you on. Thanks again, dude.
Hey, thanks, man.